I really wish it had a countdown. On Riverside, they give you a little countdown so everyone can see. But here, one of you just says, "I'm gonna click the button," and then we all hold our breath.
And then we're
Right.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're here now.
Right.
Also a
But
sound effect, like
yeah,
Bloop.
yeah.
give me a chime. Please, I wanted to say, please stand clear of the closing doors whenever it starts the
Bing bong.
yeah.
That's what they do in New York.
The only reason I know that is from the whole like New York Knicks thing where they like. Are you familiar with this? They made like the Bing Bong song.
Yeah, well, it started with these like teenagers who during COVID went around and like interviewed people in New York, and that was their like signature sound is the Bing Bong. And one of the persons they interviewed was the Knicks guy, and then it blew up into the whole thing. Or no, I guess the Knicks guy was quoting this like YouTube TikTok series.
Art imitating life, imitating art. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's all.
I'm assuming those sounds are copyrighted, so we can't play it. Or maybe we should.
We can do whatever we want. Come on.
Yeah, I guess.
No one's watching this.
Two people are watching, including Timon, who we just scared. We scared into. He had this open.
Also, our streams are on a positive trend. I want to acknowledge here because last week we're now at like 170 views or something, and I think Chris's stream is going to catch us because it's already at like 150. So those numbers may be wrong. They're both 100 and something, as I haven't been looking that closely. So once again, have to emphasize every time we do this stream, we are not a media company. So our level of effort is going to be commensurate with the value that it creates. But obviously very high value. We think about doing this for our viewers every week.
Yeah, I feel like saying we're not a media company sounds like Joe Rogan being like, but I'm not a journalist, all right?
I am now very troubled that we're 3 minutes in and we've already gotten compared to Joe Rogan. But anyway, how are y'all doing? How's everybody's week?
Good.
Yeah. Speaking of hardware and firmware updates, I got an exciting update to my camera firmware. You want to see something fun? Let's see.
Yes, we do.
Of course, it's not going to work now. Why would it? I could do a walk and talk.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's cool. Is it physically moving, or is it just like a wide angle that's zoomed in?
No, it's a gimbal.
Cool.
I was gonna say it's a little.
Take that, media companies.
Like them, like the cameras that stitch around, like the owls and similar.
Oh, the owl, yeah.
Or just anyone's that is like it's actually a little bit like jarring, but with the physical, it seems just a lot more fluid. Maybe like the inertia of the camera looks better.
Oh yeah, because they like do jump cuts basically, and that's like a true wide. That's like a 360 camera, and then they just say, "Oh, person talking," like.
I had my first experience of that on a call with one of our customers this week, and it was horrible. It was one of the worst video call experiences I've had, and I feel like I have a very diverse experience of video calls, as does everyone these days.
Sure.
I am not.
I am surprised.
Yeah.
That during pandemic, like 2-3 years of pandemic style stuff, like no innovation came out of there. Like Zoom got billions and billions of dollars of like capital, and they just like. Nobody made cameras any better. I mean, this is not bad, but this is a DJI camera, not meant for this. And it's like, nobody made cameras better. Nobody made audio better. Nobody, like, I know we're doing sloshy McWashy here, but maybe after that, better webcams. What do you think?
That feels like more challenging. I'm in, but
bring it, Logitech.
Yeah.
Dan, I've not known you to be one to step down from a challenge, so.
Well, that's a good point, but I feel like I'm also managing all of the nerd sniping that's happening here.
I was gonna say,
I'm taking care of y'all is what's happening.
A subtext for Goliath of like nerd snipes are us.
Yeah.
Like, the number of times where one of us is like, well, we couldn't possibly build hardware any smaller. Oh, Wednesday stream. I'm gonna,
yeah.
We couldn't possibly make an IoT device that's gonna, be a commercial style product. Friday stream.
Yeah. Just you wait.
You sound like a media company, by the way. I don't know if you guys are Feeling that vibe.
Well, it's for the supplements that we're selling now. 1995.
Well, Chris already has product placement with his new camera, so this stream is actually brought to you by DJI. It turns out
DJI is about to get banned from the U.S. This camera is now illegal.
Just
YouTube is going to
delist cache that
stream.
firmware update in case you need to roll back.
Yeah.
Yep. Sam, nice. I see what you're doing here. It's not the same, man. You can't just turn your laptop.
Oh no, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to hide the fact that I kicked my legs up.
Yeah.
I will say I'm actually pretty close. I have except for I can't reach it. My camera's too far away. But it's on one of those Joby Gorilla Pod things.
Oh, yeah.
But it's on a textbook that has a glossy cover and then a hard cover on top of that, so you can pan with just pushing. Yeah, exactly. It actually, I'm not gonna lie, it actually works pretty well. So it was very cheap. So I've got that going for me.
Amazing.
I want so I wasn't on the last IoT stream. I would love a recap of Sloshy McWashy, but I think first we have to do a recap of all the stuff you guys have been cranking out this week. Is that right?
That is right. We heard from on high that if we don't talk about pipelines, we never get to stream again, which felt harsh, but that's what we were told.
Where does water stream through? It streams through pipelines. That's where it streams,
On high is our hidden our proxy CEO who no one knows
about. I guess my boss's boss.
Right. Yeah, Jonathan, you don't talk to this guy. He's behind the scenes moving and shaking.
I think they go by they.
All right. So what did we do this week? Okay, so there are two announcements with pipelines, and Sam, I'm gonna be putting you on the spot. I didn't tell you before, so but you built the thing and wrote the thing, so should be fine. The two announcements, and they are featured prominently on our blog here. If I can remember how to share a screen. So we'll go in order of announcement. So first one, new data destination for S3. The S3 data destination is our first object storage data destination, which is a bit of a paradigm shift from most of our other integrations because we're not explicitly looking at time series data. Now, we are creating objects that are time-stamped and that sort of thing, but typically you'd be using this for something like media assets, so image or audio or something of that nature. And because you're dropping it into kind of, a directory structure in a bucket, it's going to have a little bit different of a pattern than it will for, creating entries in a time series database. So as you can see here, we give a little bit of info and link to the docs here about how this actually works. So effectively, for each device, a directory is created in whatever bucket you create and link. And then for each event that comes through, events have IDs on Goliath, and a object or a file, if you will be created in that directory with the content of that asset. And this can work for any data. So if you wanted to send JSON payloads through here and create a bunch of files, that could be an option. But we've been doing a little bit of work with images and audio, like I said before, that this is especially useful for. Another thing that this is useful for, which I think Sam pointed out when we first deployed this in our dev environment internally, is it's really easy for just inspecting raw data, right? So if you just want to see what's coming off of your device, a lot of other destinations are going to force you into some sort of format, whether it's structured or unstructured, but, requiring some sort of structure to be able to ingest it successfully. An object storage destination can just take any data, right? It can take binary data and you can dump that and do whatever you want with it. So we've already started doing that a little bit, which has been really great. We already have a question here. Is this just for AWS or all S3 compatible services? A little bit of foreshadowing there. This is just for AWS right now. That's mostly around the credentials. So it doesn't really have to do with, S3. Obviously, lots of services are S3 compatible. So if you keep tuning into this stream, I imagine that you might have some other S3 compatible.
You already called it
services.
foreshadowing. I think that means you've suddenly promised something.
Right. Well, it depends on what our viewer count is like. If we get 100 likes on this video, then you will get a S3 compatible. Yeah. But
Look
no,
under your
awesome.
chairs.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing sounds so ominous. Like, yeah, S3, and you're not gonna like what we did with it either.
we built an S3 integration, but you're not gonna like it. No, you will like it. You will love it. And it'll be great.
What are some S3 compatible destinations?
Well, pretty much every major cloud provider is going to have one. So Google, Azure, Oracle, Alibaba, right? All of those. There's R2 from Cloudflare, which a lot of folks are interested in because no egress fees, which is great fun. And Vercel. I actually don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. Every time I say it, I try to say it quickly because I'm insecure about how you pronounce Vercel. But
Just spell it each time.
VERCEL has a blob storage destination in beta, which is a little bit interesting because you can build static sites and things like that. So lots of different options. If you particularly need one of them, please jump in the chat and let us know. And we do take customer feedback seriously. And some good customer feedback here. Some folks in the EU need to use EU-owned services. So that's a great example of why you might want to use a different one.
There's a popular open source S3 compatible project, Mini something.
Oh, MinIO?
Oh, MinIO. Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of pronunciations.
Right. Yeah. And what is the like backup one? Backblaze? Is that the?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Cool. So as always, you can jump in this blog post or in the documentation, which I'll open up here, and get some more information on how to use it, and you'll be off to the races. So that was our first one. Our second one was a new transformer, and Sam, I'm gonna hand it over to you to talk about this.
Yes. Sorry, someone came in. Yeah, so this is a new transformer that I wrote as part of our hack day, actually. So shout out to hack days all over the world. So what this transformer does is it takes structured binary data, similar to what you can get from a packed C-struct, although not exactly the same, but basically you can imagine if you just have binary data, integers, floats, strings, just packed into bytes in their like C representation. You can describe that in a schema node, right, in your pipeline YAML, and we will pull that out and convert it into JSON. Yeah, so here's an example of like a really simple one with a float and a couple strings. The strings are nice because you can have them be fixed length, or you can have them be dynamically length, like variable length, where that length is actually specified as another part of the payload. And right here, like the names match, but they don't have to be related to each other. You can have it be whatever you want. So this is, I will say this is not a transformer that we hope very many of our users use. We're big fans of serialization formats. There are a lot of advantages to things like JSON and CBOR in terms of their just like interoperability and their flexibility. They're self-describing. So using something like this kind of locks you into a certain kind of format of your data. And then beyond that, things like protobuf or flatbuf, where they're also pretty compact, but they have, facilities for generating code, right? So there's less like handcrafted parsing code going on, and also they have like they have features that help with forwards and backwards compatibility, things like that. But there are cases where we think this is really useful for some really, really low power devices, especially things that, generally you're going to need a certain kind of power just to get through, like establishing an internet connection and doing a DTLS handshake and stuff like that. But we've talked about in the future supporting networks with that are even more constrained, things like LoRa and Bluetooth and things like that. LoRa in particular, I mean, you might get 10 bytes in a second that you can send. So, if 10 of those bytes is just the tag name for your JSON field, that's not great. So this will work really well for that. It also works well for data that has a common binary structure that's a standard and it's well known and it's not going to change. In that case, there's really no advantage to serializing it into some other format. Both there's the overhead of doing the CPU work on the device, and then there's RAM overhead, and then there's also problems with the bandwidth, of course. So here there's an example here for malinfo. I mean, this is part of the C standard going back, I don't know, like 40 years. Although it has changed. Now it supports 64-bit numbers instead of just 32-bit numbers. So it's a little different. But this is something that we think would be a great opportunity for that. And then finally, the last place where we think this works really well is in, not exactly, I guess retrofit's not the quite word, but refactoring of or bringing in older devices that may already be using this. So for better or worse, this is pretty common in IoT devices to send binary payloads, and the cloud team or your company is sort of forced to work directly on bytes, which isn't always so great or not familiar to cloud people. And part of Glyde's promise is being that interface between embedded developers and cloud developers, and each one gets to work in the in the domain that they're most comfortable in. And so this is another place where if you've already been sending binary data in structs, you don't need to create any kind of new JSON serialization or CBOR serialization or anything like that. You can just describe that data in your pipeline YAML, and we will convert it to JSON for you.
Awesome.
I also think it's a good example of some internal capabilities that Goliath has now been able to do, like pipelines exposing the sort of data routing capabilities to developers as they're integrating devices was one key part of pipelines. But what most people don't see under the covers is all the infrastructure that we have internally, and allows us, based off customer requirements or use cases, to add new things like transformers and destinations. I mean, Sam, you don't write Go on a regular basis. I think this might be your first Go project, and you were able to come up with an idea, propose it, work on a hackathon, and now it's in production. I think that's a testament to that infrastructure we now have in place.
Yeah, I did completely bring down our dev environment the first time we tried to deploy it. But yes, that's absolutely right. I've been joking for the last several weeks that I am no longer a firmware engineer. I'm a cloud engineer. And yeah, I think it is a testament to, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Go is pretty easy to pick up, so there's definitely part of that. But it's also a testament to what Dan and Tim and the cloud team built. Everything was really modular and self-contained, and that both made it really easy to see how to build something, but also kind of reduce the blast radius of any harm that I might cause, which is nice.
Definitely. Yeah, that was awesome to see. And if folks have other serialization formats, Sam called out a couple that you'd like to see transformers for, definitely let us know. All of those mentioned are top of mind, but ordering can be influenced sometimes. So please feel free to jump in either in the chat here or really probably the most effective places in the forum. We try to link that at the end of every blog post. So if you have feedback or you want new features in any of the transformers or destinations, one of the things that we were really adamant about when developing pipelines was wanting transformers and destinations to be versioned so that we could improve them and iterate on them over time. So you'll see there's a lot of V1 transformers and destinations right now, but we'll have, updates and new functionality coming to them over time. So if you have any requests, definitely let us know.
Yeah, I'm already thinking about all the things that I could build into the structured JSON transformer. I probably won't because nobody's using it right now, right? So it's just for fun. But being able to support unions, being able to support nested structs and nested JSON objects, being able to support arrays and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, the one other thing, this did come up on the last stream, but the example hadn't been published yet. We had a new example for sending data to Slack, which we mentioned we mentioned it for S3 that it's really useful for debugging. Slack is also very useful for debugging. I've just been sending stuff to a channel when I want to see what data is coming through. And maybe we'll actually give no, you know what? We'll hold off on that. I was going to give a little sneak preview to some of the transformers that we'll be announcing next week, but
Oh yeah.
you'll have to stick around for that.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
We since we're doing the pipelines of the week roundup, I think it's also worth calling out the new batch blog post that Mike published.
Definitely.
Yes, you want to give a quick overview of that?
Yeah, I'll jump in here and share again to pull that up. I lost it under the fold here. But yeah, this is a great blog post. Something you've been able to do with Goliath for quite some time with LightDB Stream, but pipelines moving kind of the step before LightDB Stream and optionally for other places has just increased the capabilities here. So Mike does a really thorough job of going through here and explaining how to send batch data. So essentially it is CBOR or JSON where the root of the payload is an array and it basically gets split apart. So in let me actually pull up the docs. One of the kind of more unique destinations is our batch destination. And it is an internal destination in that you can send data to it and it will basically recognize if it's batch data. So you could send batch data and actually not break it apart, right? You could send it to your end location and then later down in your system, break it apart if you wanted to. But the batch destination allows you to break it apart in pipelines and route it back to pipelines, which then allows you to, send that wherever you want and manipulate it further. So
yeah,
like
one
I
thing
said,
that this was super useful for is actually Mike had done this on the asset tracker, the cold chain asset tracker. But the way he actually did it was batching it by like sending subsequent individual LightDB stream like packets, but he just inserted the timestamp. And now he actually just gets to send one big packet and then it gets split up on the cloud side. And that alone, I think, is just like you have lower overhead because you have fewer packets, so lower data. And like that right there is just a great savings too.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think this pipeline example he has where it comes through, hits the batch destination, so it gets split here and basically gets looped back around. Second time through, it's no longer batch data and it's different events all going through the same pipeline. Uses that extract timestamp transformer to alter the timestamp on these. And you can see compared to the original where it was just batch and they were split apart and all had the same timestamp, they now have the timestamp stripped from the body, but the timestamp in LightDB Stream or whatever destination you're sending it to is updated to reflect that. So yeah, that's a really useful case. Mike also, I thought this was a great idea. Talked about how you could specify that you're sending batch data by using a dedicated path, which allows you to handle that differently. One of the nice things about the batch destination is if you send some batch data and some not batch data to the same pipeline, it will basically just say, oh, this isn't batch data, right? And so I'm not going to handle it. But if you were sending arrays and some of it was batch data that you wanted split and some of it was not, then sending to a dedicated path for the batch data allows you to say, hey, split this subset of data, but don't split this other. So all different ways you can slice and dice there. One of the things I do want to point out, though, and one of the things I love about our firmware SDK is all of this just looks the same. You're just sending stream data. And so, no matter what you're sending up and no matter how you're processing it, it's the same function call there, which is, I think, a nice way to conceptualize it.
Yeah, we've talked in the past about deferring computation to the more capable device. I think is how we've phrased that, or something similar.
Mm-hmm.
And this was really a fun example of that because as we built out pipelines and they got more capable, we basically just took more and more things out of the SDK that like didn't make sense to be very specific about it there anymore.
Absolutely. Another thing about that is it's a lot easier to change things in the cloud than it is on a fleet of devices. So if you want to do things differently over time, or do them multiple ways, right? Like you could have 2 pipelines processing the exact same data but having different output. And we've actually already seen some customers who are doing some migration scenarios, and they want to make sure that the data that's coming in continues to be delivered in the same way to the same destination as it always was, but they want to experiment with sending it to maybe a new data destination that they're switching over to, or they want to experiment with sending, different format of data or different type of data without, polluting that existing location.
Yeah,
Cool.
being able to change things, I think is really awesome, and specifically being able to fix bugs, because that's something I feel like in my career it's always like a little bit of tension, right? The cloud engineers are like, oh, there's a bug in the firmware and the firmware can't change, so now I've got to fix it. But it's always been fun when firmware engineers get to do it too. So like sometimes we have to change our firmware to fix electrical bugs. And the craziest thing I ever saw is one time we had a mechanical issue that we had to fix in firmware. It was wild. It was like something was getting shorted or something was making contact, and we had to like reroute signals around it to make sure that didn't cause problems.
Amazing.
That is very cool. Cool. Anything else on pipelines or announcements this week?
No, but I think we're going to have a lot of announcements for next week, so we should save those secrets for the next stream.
Absolutely. We won't let the cat out of the bag yet. But let's get to the main event here, of course. Goliath's premier new product, Sloshy McWashy. We're going to have to do a recap because Chris and Sam were not here for episode 1 of Let's Build an IoT Product. And so we're going to recap a little bit of what happened there. I meant to push the notes to the repository. So let me grab the link to the repository for folks who want to follow along with our work. We're going to do this all open source. So anything you see, the firmware, the hardware, any pipelines or anything like that will all go into this repo. We'll also have the notes in the repo once I get my act together. But I will go ahead and share the notes from last time. And Jonathan, if you would help me walk through all the fun things that we did here. All right. Let me make that a little bit bigger. So last time was our brainstorming and deciding on a product. So we kind of went around a circle. We had an audience that was giving input as well for some ideas. You can see some of them represented here. But these were the ideas here at the top were the ones that we put out there, and you can see who suggested it. So I thought there was some pretty good ones before Mike brought up the laundry vibration sensor. Before we get to, which is what is now known as Sloshy McWashy affectionately. Jonathan, were there any that you thought were particularly interesting that we decided not to go with?
There was a couple like indoor agriculture related ones. Dylan being very much into that industry and area, and also me casually. So like just a collection of how to monitor plants, how to keep plants healthier. There's a couple of those. And I mean, I think you nerd sniped us a little bit with the pager. And like we were pulling up pagers from the 90s with the neon color see through, and those are fun. But I think we just all started latching on the kind of visceral use case of not knowing when your laundry is done if you're in a public space or like college dorm, and then realizing that you've left it soaking for too long. And it just seemed like to resonate with a lot more folks, both in the stream and in person.
Yeah, I thought it struck a nice balance of or struck a nice balance, I should say. I thought it struck a nice balance of usefulness, but not that complex, right? Like some of these were systems that involved lots of devices communicating with each other. And obviously that's things you can build on top of Goliath. But once again, emphasizing that this may not be our primary focus. We want it to be what What's up?
Oh yeah, we also set some ground rules for
Oh, right, yes.
let's build an IoT product like from the very beginning. So worth mentioning those two.
Yeah, for sure. I think the ones that we started with, we may not have finished with, but the goal is to do everything on stream. And if you don't do it on the stream, you have to record doing it and post it somewhere publicly for people to consume it. There were some concessions we ended up making around that. And Jonathan, you might have to help me on exactly what they were. It was something about ordering.
Yeah, so like if you
things.
have to order hardware, you can go buy hardware. I think some research is okay, but like any work with that research you got to do on the stream.
I want a recording of Dan's face while he just spends an hour reading documentation online.
If you go on YouTube, there are many hours of that you can find. Me and the Xilinx documentation for their FPGAs. So there's no.
This is what happened on the hardware stream on Wednesday. I told Dan, I was like, we're just gonna be me like drooling and like doing layout. He's like, oh, I'll show up. I do that all the time with my streams, so like I can come help.
I'm drooling all the time.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, you're good at it.
Oh well, I don't know about that. But yes. So, but I like the spirit of that, Sam. So,
I just want to be clear. That what happened with Chris said you're good at not drooling, and you said I'm not so sure about it.
I thought he said you're good at it at live streaming, which I would say I don't know, but I am.
Yes, that is what I said. Yes.
Okay. Well, Sam's just throwing me off then, but
that was the antecedent that I heard for it.
All right. Well, anyway, we went around. We eventually voted. And the laundry vibration sensor ran away with it. As you can see, we kind of condensed a couple of the other ideas into connected plant irrigation. And then Jonathan came in with the name of the century of Sloshy McWashy, and that really stuck. That one, I believe it was unanimous. So anyway, that is what our project is now. And we have brought in firmware and hardware firepower here. And today we're going to source some components. And I don't have any plan for how we're going to start that. So if someone wants to get us going with maybe talking about what MCU we might use, that could be a good place to start.
Well, I think we need to figure out. Well, okay, first of all, I want to say I love this idea. I was sad to miss the original stream, but I had actually been thinking about building this. So it's great that now I can do it, as part of my job that I get paid for. But I recently moved into a new apartment that has shared laundry, and that laundry is not inside my apartment. And so, and also, laundry machines are too smart today. So it's like, oh, it'll be 40 minutes. But then after 40 minutes, it's like, well, this isn't dry yet. So I put it on for another 20, so just constantly going up and down the stairs to find it. So I'm very excited, over the moon, when I heard that I get paid to do this, and I get a bunch of help, and I probably I could just not do anything and it would still get built, which is great.
Sorry, you're on the stream now. You're responsible.
Yeah.
Right. There was a agreement you actually signed implicitly by clicking Enter Studio when you joined this, so. You'll find legal documents in your inbox.
I've been trained too much by GDPR to just click through every pop-up.
Accept all.
Maybe yeah. So thinking about components, it's kind of assumed in the description when we were talking about the use case, but we spent a little bit of time talking about like, well, how would you know the machine is done? Like it's supposed to send you a notification, etc. But we basically all assumed it would be some sort of motion sensor, vibration, accelerometer that just has a little bit of logic to know it's moving or not. I think equally important is to figure out what is the physical thing we're measuring, because there might be some off-the-shelf solutions like a dev kit that has the right sensor, and probably figure out the connectivity, but I think that's less unique to the Sloshy use case.
Yeah, I do think we need to figure out the connectivity. I think we also need to figure out the power. So is this going to be plugged in, or is it going to be battery powered?
Or is it laundry powered?
I mean, yeah, you could probably get something that takes vibration energy.
Healthier, yeah. There's like the machine. Yeah, there's vibration monitoring or harvesting
That's
chips.
a great idea.
Tech.
I was thinking we could take apart the machine and put it into the display, because the display usually turns off when it's done, right? So we could just like monitor the power line to the display.
Actually, you could also, I mean, there are a lot of things you could monitor here too. You could just, put a current clamp on this thing too and just monitor when it's not drawing power as much, right?
We want it to be a user-friendly device. So we should keep that in mind as well. How easy it is to incorporate.
We want to, if you're, the owner of the power delivery, maybe.
Right. The other thing is we want to be able to do this in public laundromats, right? Which I think begs an interesting. I mean, I think that impacts form factor and that sort of thing. Also, probably impacts connectivity, because if I'm just sticking it on my washer and dryer in my house, maybe we go for Wi-Fi, but you can't really count on that necessarily being available at a laundromat. I don't know. I don't know how y'all's laundromats are. The laundromats I went to in St. Louis, not a lot of Wi-Fi availability.
So I think, so are we set on like laundromats is the target? Because one of the things that I was thinking about this
is, let's build a product.
What? Yeah.
Nothing is set here.
Yeah.
One of the things I was thinking about is like, one of the like big differences between a demo and a product, especially battery powered product, is how long the battery needs to last. And that's like usually a lot of the work. And for me, where it's like being a little selfish, right? Like if I have the one laundry machine that I use in my apartment building that doesn't move and is near an outlet, like I don't want to be replacing the battery every 3 days, like every time I do laundry, just to make sure this thing, is powered up. But obviously if you went to a laundromat, you don't want to be like rooting around behind the dryer trying to, find a plug for it.
Yeah. So would you say you're making a case to not make it laundromat friendly?
I think Sam's saying he wants to have one of those hand crank ones like emergency radios.
I'm saying I'm lamenting the internet woes of our product manager here, because I'm looking for some direction. I need the requirements.
I'll tell you the kind of the vision I had in my head when Mike was bringing up the scenario. I was thinking of like a personal consumer device, because let's say you're in a dorm or you have a public, a shared common laundromat. You can't kind of like leave things around, and so you would own it. You would like use it, and then when you're done with your laundry, you would take it back with you. And so this idea of like a magnetic puck that you can stick on the side of a laundromat, kind of stays on strong enough while it's measuring and sends you a notification. And then when you're done with laundry for that week, you can take it home. And so like, it's got to be battery powered, but you're just charging it right before you need it, or when it's not used.
Should probably also tell you when you've walked away without it as well.
Oh, yeah,
that would be the most common use case. I feel like it's like I stick it to the laundry thing and then I just leave.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you want to be able to leave, right?
Yeah. If you're next to it.
Well, no. I mean, sorry. I leave for the week. I leave for the week, or
I see.
Like, if it's in that dorm building next door and you forgot it, push you that notification saying, "Hey, you forgot your sloshy."
Yeah. So maybe sloshed. Like after it detects, I assume it would have some detection of like, the cycle is starting, and then probably some sort of sometimes I think it like pauses mid-cycle. I don't know what the longest duration is, but basically we need like some consecutive count of, non-vibrating measurements. And then if that reached a certain level, it'd be like, it's done. And then maybe after like you determine it's done, after some amount of time after that, it's like, hey, did you leave me here? So that could work. There's also the question of like, how are we going to do the push notification, right? So like on the back end side of it as well.
Slack.
Yeah, so we already have a Slack thing for pipelines, so that's easy.
You said done. Say no more.
we also We also have N8N and Zapier, which has various SMS capabilities. But yeah,
I
push
think
notifications is a requirement.
figuring out the end of the cycle is probably not going to be as hard as we might think, because I think we can tolerate a good deal of latency. In like, you don't need to know the second your laundry is done. So if it's like no vibration for 2 minutes, or like vibration below a threshold for 2 minutes, right? That's probably fine, and probably way more than like any pause you would get in the middle. Although some drying dryers have this like wrinkle guard thing where they like turn back on
speeds back up.
periodically.
Yep.
And then you also have to think about like what you pick up, like parasitic vibrations from the machines next to it. If you're in a laundromat, or if you have like a double stack with like a washer and a dryer, how do you like disambiguate this?
Although if you have a well, no, you're right, because in a laundromat, the double stack, you might not have both of them. I was gonna say if you had like a double stack in your house, then you need them both to be done anyway before you can move from one to the other. So, well, that's not true, I guess. If the washer or if the dryer was done,
Right.
yeah.
I think
So.
what we're saying is the UX of the app or whatever interface to the customer or the user is going to be important here. Like, where do you place it, and what are is it intelligent to figure out what thing you're doing, like washing versus drying?
Or maybe you can set
Yeah.
what you want the thing is with I don't know, maybe a setting service. That could be useful.
I think we need to buy a data center full of GPUs and train a new AI model on washing machine vibrations. Every model, every configuration of possible stacking and neighbors, all of it.
Or we put a camera on it and we recognize the type of machine it is, and then we look up the data sheets for that machine, and then we just pull out how long the pauses are. And
can you train a model on like a Cortex M4?
Can you train a model?
Yeah, like how many hundreds of years would it take to train a model on a Cortex M4?
Right. Like define can.
Yeah, define model as well. I mean,
there's
yes.
A complete non sequitur, but there's a YouTuber who's built a cluster computer with those RISC-V tiny chips. Chris, you know what I'm
are you talking about the is it called like the pineapple or something like that?
Are you talking about the CH32Ps? John?
Yeah, one of the like a electronics YouTuber made like a cluster computer with them. BitLooney, maybe?
Lore?
Oh, BitLooney.
Oh, it's BitLooney.
If only someone had a podcast episode coming out today with that guy.
What timing?
Chris, you can't promote on this.
Sorry,
you have to,
sorry. Cross-pollination.
Sponsorship time.
Sorry.
Jeez.
Sorry.
No. But now we want some sponsor money from.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm expecting a check from
we'll
the
beep out the name
Hour.
of the podcast if you don't sponsor.
Yeah, you have to rename it to Sloshy McWashy.
Yeah. This episode brought to you by.
All right. Okay, so I think we need to make some decisions here, and we're gonna have to be ruthless in our scoping and prioritization. So I'm gonna push us here. All right, we're gonna go through these questions and make decisions, and then if you feel strongly, speak up. All right. Starting with how long does the battery need to last? Let's start there. Let's talk about power. Battery powered, yes.
Yeah, it sounds like we'll need a battery for these use cases. The kind of battery probably depends on some of these other things, although I think the battery power also implies cellular, right? My guess would be for something like this, so that you don't have to charge it every time, we would probably either do like a coin cell or like one of those little small, I forget what their letter is, but they look like really tiny D batteries.
D batteries. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
They're tiny. They're like
they're LR062 or something.
Yeah, something like that. They're like proportions.
I thought those
like
were
a D battery, but they're like the size of your
123s.
fingernail.
Oh.
They're in a lot of the Samsung SmartThings sensors.
Yeah,
But basically, replaceable batteries will last a long time. Like we could easily get months out of a non like rechargeable battery, or like a non, yeah. That'll also simplify the BOM as well. We won't need like a charging IC.
Awesome.
CR12238.
Yeah,
That's what I was thinking of. Yep.
CR1238. Who's that?
A.
Alpha.
Hey,
Or I
sorry
guess-
about that.
Yeah, there's also higher voltage versions, which are CR2s. I think.
All right.
I don't know.
Connectivity cellular. Any pushback on that?
Only cost. I mean, cell's not cheap.
I guess one thing would be if it is like the laundry machines in my dorm way back when were in the basement of a concrete and rebar building. So I'm not sure if they
So
would
we should
actually-
include a really long antenna, Sam's saying. Really long. Have we considered Ethernet? Just saying. I really like the 1024, the RT 1024, like nice Ethernet cable. You could really crank a lot of processing on there. You want to make a model on a device.
And
And
we're
XP's
talking about
got you
battery
covered.
life.
if you
then-
had control
battery.
over the environment, like something like Thread or Bluetooth or Zigbee would be perfect for this.
Yeah.
But I don't think we will if we're targeting like dorms and laundromats.
But maybe to use your building as a use case, what's how close is it to? Is there any Wi-Fi in your building nearby? Can you
Yeah.
your
So
Wi-Fi?
my building's pretty small, like the one I literally currently live in right now. It's only 3 units. There's one washing machine. It's at ground level, so it'll have plenty of cell signal, also plenty of Wi-Fi signal. But yeah, basically, I think my building's pretty easy to solve for. But I think and it's also a private place. You don't have to worry about getting stolen and things like that. But for like laundromats and dorms, I think there could be other things. Like Wi-Fi actually also might be harder in a dorm, right? Because those are usually like captive portals.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
I'm
what I was saying.
imagining
The UX is going to be tough.
My college housing was like in the basement, nothing. I mean, granted,
They
my
didn't
cell
even have
phone-
lights.
I mean, I was going to say the cell phones back then were so bad that I actually don't know how it would compare to today. So like,
I think
what was before
mine-
2G? Was it G? Was it just G?
Yeah.
It was G. Yeah.
I think it was actually GSM.
I mean,
But
maybe we
we
need a
should-
couple of different SKUs.
Yeah, I was about to say the exact same thing. Like the the
Wow, it's like-
shared.
It's like
shared
someone should have a
in building.
module that has Wi-Fi and cellular on it, and it should be tiny, and they should design it on Wednesdays. What do you guys think?
Only on Wednesdays.
Only on Wednesdays.
Well, that means
Although
it's great.
that is
you'll work
recorded, so it's allowed.
You'll work on
Yeah.
the tiny module on Wednesdays. We'll work on slashing McWashy on Fridays. It'll all
We meet in the
intersect.
middle.
Forth, push, pull, push, pull, push.
And then there's no reason that couldn't be like you don't need to populate both parts, right? I'm just thinking for like cost, you could get like a DNP on the cell part or the Wi-Fi part.
Well, then you have to target different processors, though. So like, well, it depends on how you do it too.
Yeah, but
right?
it's
So if-
firmware. I mean, how hard can it be? It's just like copy and paste.
Yeah, easy.
All right.
I think what we should really do, here's what we should do. We should really challenge Sam on the firmware side. Sam, you have to put it on like a Paduke or like a WCH CH32 V003, and then it's got to run the full SDK on like a tiny
Could you-
like 2K of
Describe
SRAM.
those parts a little bit.
It's
Yeah,
gonna be an 8086. That's what I'm gonna.
I mean, that's pretty beefy compared to no. I was gonna say-
If you're not writing assembly, I don't want to hear you complain.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, that's
All
the
right.
thing. If you're targeting low cost manufacturing, this is a realistic, like, I'm guessing this is not a high margin device that we're talking about here.
I know we're gonna charge a lot for this.
Well,
Yeah,
I
for
just
the
mean,
service
yes, we
alone that you
can.
pay
but-
for these live streams.
yeah.
Exactly. This StreamYard subscription is not cheap. All right. All right. So
Did you see Sila's suggestion here? Profibus. That is deep. That's like a deep industrial cut right there.
What is that?
Not a lot of laundry rooms with Profibus.
Is that wired or wireless?
It's usually wired. I think there is a wireless version of Profibus. Usually it's like a factory standard though. So yeah, I think it's actually Ethernet. It's usually Cat 5. I think.
You know, yeah.
There's like but different multi transport. So
we should sell it with like a 500-foot long reel of wire, and you just wind it up back to your dorm room.
Okay, so I do want to point out that I said that we would be ruthless in scoping, and we're now on to having multiple SKUs of this device. So I don't.
Well, we did
know
also
if we're
take
doing-
26 minutes to talk about launch stuff. So I think we've proven pretty well that we're wordy, if nothing else. We're gonna get there though.
Right, all right, fair enough. We may have different
Ruthless
SKUs.
eventually.
Maybe that's
All
a
right,
good
let's-
scoping mechanism. So
Let's get ruthless. Let's build it with cellular and leave a footprint for something with Wi-Fi so that we can launch it, and then later, if anyone complains about there being no cell service in their basement laundry room, right? Then we can do a follow-on or a V2 or something that has another connectivity option. I guess we don't even need to leave the footprint.
Giant
because they
antenna, like
can
antenna this big, and with the device this small, will be comically large and effective.
Yeah, we're gonna
I mean,
we're gonna use those like giant 100-mile long antennas that they use to talk to submarines.
all right, let's keep going. So do we want to talk about the MCU or the platform that we want to build on first in terms of like
Yeah, that's where I was going to go with that. It's just like if you are targeting multimodal communications, things like that, you could do things like, like the Rack 5010 board, where it's got a somewhat generic Zephyr processor talking through modem subsystem to either Wi-Fi or cellular. Like Sam was just saying, if you have like these different SKUs and you want to target them with footprints, you could also target them in firmware too.
Are we thinking about building this out of a collection of dev kits, or are we going to build some custom PCBs for this?
Custom PCBs, of course. Don't be silly.
Yeah, because I want it small too. Like I'm imagining like AirTag sides.
Yeah,
maybe a little
Buyer
bit bigger.
Sam wants it small, so we gotta follow through.
Cellular and small don't usually play nice together unless you're going deeply integrated. So just
wait, can we use the Find My network? Is that open? Is there a way that we can send data through it?
Actually, to both your questions, yes, and also yes. So Find My and Find My devices, Find My being the Apple network and Find My devices being the Google Android network, obviously.
Great branding.
One.
Great branding. Yeah.
They've officially opened them up for developer programs, and I think Nordic announced some SDK support for both.
Yeah, Nordic has, but I don't think that you can send like arbitrary data.
Overloading the method. Yeah.
Unless who did the hack where they were able to send data through the network?
On Find My?
Yeah, on Find My. It was okay, I'll look up a link. But yeah, someone basically reverse engineered the protocol.
You guys might be skipping the Goliath part just so we're clear here. You might be skipping
that?
Goliath.
Yeah.
But I do think that
I don't think Find My is a good solution though either. Because like, what if you don't have someone who has? What if someone and hear me out here? What if someone doesn't bring their phone down to the laundry room?
But somebody else will. That's the beauty of Find My, right? Is that like there definitely will be an iPhone near.
What if I don't live in New York and there's just people everywhere, Sam? What if it's like I went to a rural college and there's like 2 people that walk by the laundry room every day?
Well, then no one cares if you leave your laundry in there too long. Just like pick it up.
I do. What about wrinkles? Come on, wrinkles. I mean, that logic, it's like, I'll just buy my own house because I live in the middle of nowhere.
I think the default is there's an iPhone everywhere. I'm gonna need proof.
Taskmaster.
Go anywhere.
Scoping. We're gonna scope this down. We're not using Find My. I'm making an executive decision. That sounds like a lot of fun, but we're not doing it for this iteration. Future SKUs. It's gonna be great. All right, platform though. So Chris, I'm taking your statements as an implicit endorsement for Zephyr.
That's basic. You could probably always assume that. Yes.
Yeah. Anyone want to push back?
Yeah, I want to use QNX actually.
How about embed?
Yeah.
Too soon.
We're gonna take over maintaining embed just for this project.
So one thing that could potentially work in terms of low cost was on here. Did you put cost in the?
No, cost was not a requirement.
Nope.
Cost. Oh boy! Wow.
Price.
Tell me you're a cloud engineer without telling me you're a cloud engineer.
It's a novelty item, Chris.
Yeah. Well, Cost still matters, you know.
Yeah.
We're only
so one
selling it to college students.
It's
So.
luxury priced. It's luxury priced. So we actually, the value is that it costs a lot, right?
Okay, we have to set an
It's a
upper limit,
status symbol.
and it has to be less than the latest generation of NVIDIA GPUs.
So one thing we could do in this scenario that I think would be, you know, like Sam was talking about with the low cost, but also like population options, things like that, is plop down an ESP32C3 chip, and then you don't populate all the Wi-Fi, like all the RF elements of it. So you're still using the chip as the main processing element. And then when you want to switch it over, you actually just remove the cell module, and then you add on the Wi-Fi elements around it and stick the CAN over top, right? So,
yeah.
Downside being, of course, that, you know, Espressif is in Zephyr, but it's not as good as ESP IDF. But you also get the benefit of the modem subsystem in Zephyr to retarget it. So
yeah, I'm also not too worried about like the hardware as far as like what we need it to do is going to be pretty simple, right? Like network and accelerometer and power management. So I think the Zephyr support for that would be fine.
Yes.
What modem do you think we would use? Because then like there's the 9160, which we know and love, but that has a whole nother MCU on it that we wouldn't use, right? So that seems like not the cost-effective part.
I would probably suggest the BG77, and that is the shrunkified version of the BG95. So it's basically, it's not pin compatible, but it's silicon compatible, and it's just much smaller.
So the same drivers in Zephyr should work for that.
That's right. Yep.
Cool.
So the reason you wouldn't use something like that is if you, so one thing to think about in this case is, it's not again on our list of requirements here, but if it was like, say we wanted to target universities outside the US or somewhere with lower coverage, then you start running into problems with like Cat M1 NB-IoT coverage. And then you need to have a third tertiary SKU of a secondary modem. And you can actually, with the BG95, you can switch it out with the EG91, which is like almost pin compatible. It's footprint compatible, but it's not size compatible. And then you could target Cat 1 instead of Cat M1, which puts you onto like a different Verizon network, for instance. And coverage is much more broad. And basically, when you pull out your phone and you see, oh, I have coverage on my phone right now, you're guaranteed to have coverage for a Cat 1 modem versus, because it's traditional LTE instead of Cat M1 or NB, which is secondary software packages.
Is the BG77 also cheaper than the BG95, or is the primary benefit the size of the package?
It's the size. Yeah, I think it's, yeah. We can look it up on DigiKey. I will do that right now. BG77 on DigiKey. Holy man. Single piece cellular on DigiKey is just like eye-watering. $24. That is not the real price. That is the DigiKey price.
Well, it drops to
look at this.
16, almost 17.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Chris, have you looked at any of the? I know Quectel has just started to release Cat 1 BIS SKUs.
Yeah, I haven't looked at those.
But and you know, a bunch of other silicon vendors have started to do, like Sequans has a Cat 1 BIS, but it has like this good transition period. So Cat 1 BIS is effectively Cat 1M with a little less efficiency, so you know, less power efficient, but it will work on a Cat 1 network. They figure out how to like basically make that a little bit more power efficient than a normal Cat 1, and also a little bit cheaper as well. So it's like kind of this intermediary until.
And they really achieve their goal in confusing the crap out of everybody. Again.
Who picks these?
Also, if we were going to talk about companies that are confusing the crap out of people, Quectel also has the BG770, which is the same form factor, but in an entirely different piece of silicon under the can. So
is the
enjoy.
So one thing to keep in mind, right? We're not going to build this out of dev kits, but we're likely going to be working on dev kits. Is there a good option for the? Obviously, we can get ESP32s in a variety of different form factors. BG77, is there a good option for that? Good dev kit.
It's a great
there's an
question.
official one.
I don't think there's a good option.
Well, if
Most
you said it's silicon compatible to the BG95 though, right? So
that is correct. Yeah. So
Okay.
that piece should work with like the Rack 5010.
yeah, so we could do a lot of that on the 95.
And QuickTel does make some dev kits for their most popular SKUs. I think I'm looking on DigiKey. There is a dev kit, not very well priced or in very good quantity, but yeah, it could evolve to that.
Cool. Dev, did you say C3 for the ESP32, Chris? I don't really think it matters too much, but I don't think we're going to be using most of the things that people like the S3 for or anything like that.
Yeah, I think one question that is relevant is USB. Does this thing need to have USB for programming, or it's going to be USB to serial? That adds cost, that sort of thing. So that is worthwhile. The C3 does have a USB transceiver on it, but I am not sure about support in Zephyr, especially around like things like CDC, ACM.
Is the C3 the one with USB but only for JTAG?
Yeah, that might be it actually. Yeah.
Let's look.
I remember something of like it's not a USB host.
I found a $30 add-on module that has the BG77.
Ooh. Drop the
Add-on.
link.
Just
Add on to what?
from Rack.
Okay.
I don't know. It doesn't have this like looks like a.
Oh,
I
this
don't
is for their system. Yeah, this is for their they have like a modular system, I think.
Yeah, so we might need to build an adapter board or something for it, or maybe we can use their system altogether. I don't know.
Yeah.
WizBlock.
That's it. Yep.
WizBlock.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it, but I trust you guys to figure it out. There was also, I think, or is this what I saw?
I do feel like I should call out, usually when I'm picking the hardware, I usually talk to Mike. I guess in this case it'll be Sam, because I usually just pick it willy-nilly, and it's like, well, now I gotta go rewrite it. One thing to potentially look at here is actually to go look at like the most support, like making sure the modem supported. So I think a reason to do it would be the BG95, like modem stuff that's in Zephyr. But if not, we should probably rethink it.
Yeah.
And
I can take that action item. I'll record a loom of me forgetting that I'm being recorded as I look through the documentation.
Does the BG95 have an MCU?
It's got an application processor, but I'm not sure if it's an MCU. I think it's running ThreadX. I think that's what those things run. So I guess it is. But yes, there is. I would not recommend
one we want to touch
for low power type stuff.
So
You would have to re-implement all of the co-app-y type stuff.
That just sounds gross.
Well, and like Chris was mentioning earlier too, doing it on like a neutral application processor gives us the option of removing it later if we do like a Wi-Fi SKU or something else.
So the main application we're running on the C3?
Yeah.
And then, using like an AT interface to the BG series. Cool.
All right. Seems like we're on a good path there.
How big is this thing going to be? You have form factor magnetic above, but you don't have. Should we find a magnet case? Maybe it would be a good way to start with this sort of thing.
Break out
I'm
that 3D
imagining
printer.
like in between an AirTag and Thingy 91, like kind of something you can palm, and just slap
smaller than a thing. Yeah, I mean, like because Thingy 91, in my head, that was like what we're talking about, but it's that's not super cheap. We would be targeting a slightly lower SKU or price.
Yeah. But as far as like that form factor, something that's like really easy and light to grab with one hand, put in a pocket, maybe even a little bit smaller than the Thingy 91 if we can swing it. Miniaturization is another thing that is a big difference between demos and products. So.
Right. Well, when we take this for FCC testing, we'll see about our size and make sure that's right. Yeah. So
Another thing that actually helps with productization and stuff like that, though, too, is like branding and like making sure that it has like a fun feel to it.
Terrifying.
I'd say that's something you want to have. I'll take my comments offline.
you could print that, right?
Is it spitting out the
It looked.
victims?
I don't know what was going. I mean, like this is all.
Did you bring it back real quick?
Are you sure? You sure you want that? Yes, you're talking about this right here.
Yeah, we got to figure that out later.
Yeah, it's like a piece of hay, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of things going on with this photo. A lot of things going on. It's not the only one. There is a wide range of photos that I could and shan't share.
We don't want to get the stream taken down, so
Demonetized for
yeah, demonetized. We're not gonna get our ad revenue on this one. We're not gonna get our amp hour ad revenue on this.
Well,
stream
yeah,
if you're
I mean-
careful. Oh, sorry. Don't say it until the check gets here.
We need it.
we
all right.
need a crossover swag or something.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
We haven't talked about the sensor
Yes. Let's talk about the
or
sensor.
sensors, but I think sensor is probably
An accelerometer, right? Probably the LIS 2DW or H or one of those.
which one?
2DH12
the
is the one that's on a lot of our current stuff.
Yeah,
is it?
I think the W is the same. It's just half the Z height.
Okay. All right.
So one of the
LIS
things I was
2DH or 2DW, like Sam's saying, and then 12.
So one
is
of the things I was
more
thinking about, and I was trying to do research while on the call, is how many G forces, or just general, how sensitive does this device have to be? Because like washing machines move a ton, and accelerometers are usually rated in what, newtons?
They can measure quite a bit. I don't know what the limit is, but also, like if it maxes out, your laundry machine's definitely on. You know what I mean?
or it's falling down a set of stairs at the time. Either way, you want to know.
Yeah.
High impulse event detected.
But I know there are accelerometers that are designed for sort of like, well, I guess probably more for sensitivity to your point, but like they're MEMS devices and they're not supposed to like experience that much force.
You're saying
So
like
I don't know if there's
max,
actually
like
something we should
absolute
consider.
max type thing. I think it will be okay. But
yeah, if we're worried about like physical integrity of the device, something is going to
Battery
fail
first.
before the accelerometer.
Battery will go poof first. That's a big
So you have to
deal.
rent a plane and do the 0G tests.
Well,
with
vibe
washing
testing is a
machine.
very real thing. I mean, that's a very real like.
We could
Shock
just
and
put
vibe.
it in the belly
yeah,
of a
those are-
737 Max and wait a while.
Stick it to the window.
Just playing the odds game at that point. So, you know.
This part is cool.
Yeah, I've got the sheet up now.
I was impressed
If you're
with
sharing it, Dan, it's not currently on the screen. I don't know if that's on purpose.
Oh, I wasn't trying to, but I will.
Hey, Dan, everything has to be done on the stream.
You're so right. I appreciate y'all keeping me accountable, you know? I need
The
this in
thing
my
he
life.
has these analog ADI accelerometers, and I was just impressed they had like a wake up. It's like, oh, that's fancier than any accelerometer I used in past lives.
A lot of that actually comes from the hard drive industry because they used to have fall detect. So it'd be like you're in a spinning disk, and then your laptop falls off the desk, and it's like, how fast can you detect that you're falling and try and spin down the disk so that the platins don't crash together.
Dan, can you scroll up to the top of this again?
Yep.
Down a little bit to where the description is. Yeah. Perfect. Wait, up.
Oh, sorry.
A little bit. A little more. Perfect. Stop. So this can measure plus or minus 16 Gs. You see that? It is rated to survive 10,000 Gs. So I think we're okay.
So if the laundry machine is hit by a F-16, firing a missile at it.
Yeah.
I did see a didn't trust any of the AI generated ones. I looked for a Quora answer of something like 300 to 500 Gs for industrial washing machine. I don't know why someone is measuring the Gs of industrial washing machine. Assuming for like the building or the floor, if it's vibrating a lot, it probably like damage tiles and things like that.
Yeah, but I don't. Is like G-force the measure that's I don't know. Like it's because that's more like I guess it is like several impacts right in a row, right? But I feel like this is probably like other physical characteristics of vibrations that beyond just like the raw G-force that could be an
It's
issue.
probably even higher because of like it's like a percussive jackhammer
Right.
on the tile of your laundromat.
Right. Yeah. Also, whatever G-forces they do are probably going to tear your clothes apart before they break the.
Gentle cycle.
cycle. Yeah, we'll have to measure all of them. Make sure we can tell the difference between.
The other thing I was thinking about, and I kind of
high
hinted of like placement of the sensor kind of matters.
Yeah,
unless
like
we're not
on like the center of the axis or off axis.
Yeah, or if it's like, depending on how we're measuring stuff, if this is like a threshold, then it doesn't really matter. If we get more sensitive or like more prescriptive, then it might matter more. If it's at the bottom of the machine, if it's on our door.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just need a binary signal, right? Like running, not running. So I think we're okay. If we were doing like predictive maintenance or I don't know, trying to track usage or something, I think
like
that could matter more.
Internally, right? If they have those counter
we've already designed some of this stuff, guys. We already have the vibration monitor from Reference Design. So if you wanted to, this is not cheap. So that sensor is $300.
Well,
but it will tell you the
upper
kurtosis
limit is
of the
NVIDIA H100, which is $25,000. So as long as it's less than $25,000, I think
we're doing fine. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
We're killing it.
Yeah, we are like.
And again, we're targeting college students in their freshman year at the dorm.
I mean, think about how much a textbok costs, though, right? I mean,
freshman year at Harvard, though, is what we're going for, right? So,
how much is the
for their butlers to know when the laundry's done?
Exactly, yeah. Or we go the real way we get around this is we sell them to the university, and that's a perk of going to school there.
And then Modbus sensors nothing for the.
Yeah,
right. Except
you should see the power supply that goes with this thing, though. It's this is powered off 120 or 240. So, all right, switch back to Dan's screen. Sorry.
Oh, I don't. What do I even have up right now? I was just looking at the drivers for the Inzuffer. So I think we're in a pretty good spot here. Let me see if I can grab my notes again, and see if there's anything else we want to cover.
Well, while Dan's doing that, I can just quickly show another candidate here.
Oh my gosh!
Why are they all raining? Why are they all in the rain?
So that was part of the prompt. I wanted, it's like a washing machine, it's not the rain.
But
it's wait, is your washing machine in the rain?
Yeah. It is now.
Yeah.
Now
with Sloshy McWashy, your washing machine is always in the rain.
I think it's interpreted as sloshy as like sloshing in puddles.
Yeah. Well, no, that was Chris. I prompted it to do that, so This one kind of has like a action vibe to it, Like it's like hunting.
Is that
you.
blood?
Mud.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, of course. Your washing machine is covered in mud, of course, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What was I thinking? Of course, it's mud. Why would it? Why would it not be?
Also, it has one tooth. It looks like a guillotine.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's actually a mouth guard for when it experiences 10,000 G's of force.
Okay, I feel like the thing we're
look at this. We still have people left on the stream. Did you?
I know.
Thank you for being here. We love you.
Enclosure. What are we thinking?
3D printed to start for sure.
Okay.
Oh. I thought you were asking.
You thought Dan was mispronouncing the word enclosing, like I did as well.
Yeah. I thought you were saying like we're wrapping up here. Like,
Oh,
In closing, in closing,
enclosure. We're going to.
I learned something today.
No. Okay, 3D printed. I think this is one of the ones that Jonathan's gonna come to us with a design at 3 a.m. Sometime. You can pretty reliably count on that. And
My experience, one of the things that drives a lot of that is actually the battery form factor. That and the
I
battery.
thought you were talking about Jonathan being awake at 3 a.m. I was like,
I don't know what governs that. That's just
Just
the cycles of the
appropriate level of
moon
nerdson, I
and
think.
children, and I don't know. Yeah.
and we'll need space for the magnet too.
Yeah, I was just looking at some. Well, where'd they go now? There's some examples online of cases where someone's made like a where you can like slip a magnet in there if you want to. So that might be
Chris,
a good way to start.
Does Bud have magnetic cases? Just to like as a frame of reference.
I don't know. I can look. One thing to think about on back to batteries is like the 129 is nice for like high impulse power for things like cellular, right? That's one thing that we would need. But the form factor is pretty awkward because it's like a canister, right? It's like basically they're old camera batteries, so they were like meant to go in a tube.
Yeah.
For flashes. So still high. That's why the high impulse is there for like GSM systems. One other one though that Laird Nay, or I guess Izurio Nay Laird, they use a 2450. That's a common one that can do 1 amp impulse output. It's a 1 amp hour battery.
That's a coin cell, right?
It's a coin. It's like a fat coin cell.
It's the chonky.
Yeah, and so that one might be a good fit too. If I mostly queuing off of Sam's idea of like the AirTag, it would be like a fat AirTag.
Yeah,
that's our sort of thing.
Be good. We could also, if we're worried about impulse, we could like do a less beefy battery with a capacitor. I don't know how big the impulse is that we would need for how long.
Yeah. I mean, I get real nervous about like so you had said CR 2030. What did you say? No, you said the first one, coin cell first, like just a straight coin cell, like a 2032 is the standard, right? Those things are like 50 milliamp output sort of things. It's just like, oh.
Yeah. No, I was thinking more just the form factor. I'm a firmware engineer, so if it looks the same, it's all the same to me, Like,
right.
Yeah. Are we
just like all code's the same, right?
Are we rolling out lipos?
Lipos are okay, but the downside is the shipping. So like primary cells are nice. You can like buy them off the shelf and slot them in, that sort of thing.
We're just looking at the thing in A1 form factor, right? Was like a 300 milliamp
hour.
with
the pouch. Yeah.
Yeah. The other
pouch
thing
batteries
is
are pokey.
Like I feel like the power density is just a lot better if it's not rechargeable, and like we should easily be able to get months out of a coin cell form factor battery.
Mm-hmm.
It's only be used infrequently, once or twice a week.
Yeah, no display.
That's a good question, actually. Would there be a power switch or no power switch?
Make a move. It can be on your desk and go to deep sleep, and then.
Well, actually, one thing we could do is you could do maybe like a Hall effect, and then like if the magnet is engaged, that wakes up the device, sort of thing.
The LIS 2D whatever the whole series, I think it does have a wake signal.
It does have a wake. That's right. Yep.
Wait, what if you want to just like have it stuck on your fridge or something though, when you're not using it?
I think you should get a new fridge if it's vibrating all the time.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But we could just have deep sleep mode, right? Like if you're doing laundry consecutively for 3 hours,
that's another one that like triggers me of like it's just like the same as a battery. You just do deep sleep mode. What's the big deal? You just like turn off the current, right? That's what I said, a little switch,
Oh, yeah. I see. To just get it completely off.
Okay. What if we made the entire enclosure rotatable, and when it's in one position, it's on, and then in one position, it's off?
I think what I'm worried about here is just slapping it on the side of the machine and forgetting to turn it on. And
yeah, you need LED indicator type thing.
All the support cases we'll get.
Another idea. What if the bottom of it had a little plunger switch that was activated only when it's in the down position. So when you stick it on, it turns on the device, and when you take it off, it turns off the device.
Well, as the dedicated mechanical engineer, I think you need to think about what you just said. But I like the idea, but a mechanical engineer would like leap through the screen and try and.
My
would
title of this
break your-
project has no engineer in it.
Well, yeah, but you're the 3D printer, so you know
I'm
you're
the 3D printer.
you're the modeler.
I'm like
You
I'm
were
like the guy
Mechanical
at theme
architect,
parks
how about
who has to deal with the vomit and puts all the sawdust on it and scoops it. That's kind of how I see myself.
Oh my gosh. What about
Is that what the case is going to be printed from?
Recycled sawdust.
Sawdust.
Yeah. Very
Biodegradable.
environmentally- Yeah, exactly.
Carbon credits.
I think as far just thinking like not how do we build it or what does that do for power draw? Like if it has no buttons, like you could just slap it on there and walk away and it works. Like I think that's the ideal user experience.
Yeah.
Whoa, I just had an idea. If it doesn't have buttons and it doesn't have anything in there, what if the whole thing was just waterproof and you just chucked it in the washer?
That's not a bad idea.
I feel like that is riskier for like damaging clothes and stuff like that, though. I don't know
do you mean
what
it's
this.
It's an
Oh,
agitator.
wait, but then we could change the
A
shape of the
laundry ball.
enclosure, right? So we put it inside one of those like dryer balls. You know, they have those like wool balls that help your clothes dry faster.
You know, the hard part of this is going to be like we were like, oh, but the concrete block.
Yeah,
of, you know, the base.
exactly.
So now it's like, and now we're putting in a metal box too.
Yeah, it's like, is that a Faraday cage? Is that what it is?
With a little wire coming out, you know. All right. What if you had multiple units, right? One, a sensor unit that's inside the washer, and then a gateway relay
Ooh.
outside the washer.
And you could have like a sensor, so like you could like put them so that it rotates
yeah.
like past.
Mm.
Yeah,
And
like
it's like, oh, when you start
like an
seeing it
encoder.
rotate past, it must have
Yeah.
stopped.
Boom. Yep. That's like the military version of it. It's like high reliability, high cost.
Yeah. $500,000 each.
Yeah.
That's
Again,
more than
as long
an
as it's under
AK-100.
$25,000 per unit. We're set it to affordability.
Mhm.
All right. So I think we made some excellent progress here and only had a few sidetrack discussions. Maybe more than a few. Maybe this whole thing is kind of a sidetrack discussion. But what do we want to plan for our next stream? Not necessarily next week, but when we have our next stream on this, right? Maybe we could get some like we have all the dev boards we need to start doing a little work. We need to get the accelerometer, unless if someone already has one of those on hand.
That should be pretty easy to get from like SparkFun or something.
Yeah, but you have to record yourself doing it, so
Driving
The-
to Colorado.
if we're
going to
gonna
pick it up
use
at the
that
window.
BG77 dev kit, like it doesn't have standard, or like it doesn't have just like pins that you can attach wires to. So I think we'll need a breakout board for that. If there isn't an existing one, we'll need somebody to quickly design one.
Me, right? You're talking to me, aren't you? Cool. All right. Well, if let's say between now and then, I think it was within our parameters for the rules that we can order things, order some hardware. If we need to design any PCBs, then we'll co-opt Chris's hardware stream. I mean, we'll obviously need one for the actual device, but if we need any for development, we'll start with that. And then next stream, we'll try to have all the hardware on hand that we need and start with a little bit of firmware.
Sure. Yeah.
Do we have just in terms of like when the next stream will be? Do you have anything scheduled for next week? Or would this be the Friday stream?
That is unknown at this point.
Okay.
There is
The
a
next time we
candidate.
have the Let's Build an IoT product.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is there are you wanting it to be sooner or later than
No,
next week
just setting expectations to
Oh,
everyone who's following along the project.
for our audience? Well, if you're here at this stream, you're definitely going to be at whatever we're doing next week because it's going to be electric, I'm sure. But yeah, exactly. And maybe on Chris's stream, well, I don't know. We'll probably continue with the we'll see. I don't know. Chris decides his stream, so I'm not going to speak for him here. So we'll see. Cool. All right. Well, I'll post after this about some of the decisions we made here. We'll put the notes up in the repository for people to be able to see. Is there any burning things that you all want to share or statements you'd like to make before we wrap up for the week?
I think Sloshy McWashy is a very fun name, but it's also quite long.
So just sloshy.
Jonathan, I think that was a direct shot at you. So your rebuttal,
Across the
please.
No. If I wanted there to be a direct shot, I would have said, "Wow, everyone here is like really showing their generation, right?" Like, Bodie McBoatface was a long time ago, guys.
I still think it's my favorite story from the internet. I think we voted on the project name. So Sloshy McWashy, if I'm recalling, it's the name of what we're calling this project. I think we have to do some market research. I think it's fair of what would be the first generation SKU
on stream, of course. You have to do it on the stream.
Yeah.
Right?
We'll have Ariana on here as
Right.
well.
Yeah,
you know?
we have to come up with a company name, and we don't want to be so limiting, and maybe want to expand to other types of.
Oh, I registered the LLC. Was I not supposed to do that?
How many states?
McWashy LLC. I went on a Stripe Atlas or whatever it's called, and
so that's where that unexpected bill came from.
yeah, it's a official Delaware company now, so we're good to go.
Nice.
He may or may not be serious. I'm not sure.
You never know. I'll keep you guessing.
I'm not offended. The scope of the naming was for the project and not for the product, so that's good feedback.
I think you might get some pushback from the general population though if we get away from it, but we'll see.
That's true. Buyers vote with their wallets.
The OGs will always know.
It's so true. We'll have a big rebrand. We'll go from a fun washing machine splashing in the puddles to a very corporate logo. We'll go with Sam's preferred name. They'll say that we lost our way, but the private equity
logos over time just get more zoomed in and they get simpler. So all you got to do is start at the washing machine in the rain, and then eventually it'll just be a single raindrop. That'll be all it is.
That's a great logo.
That's a pretty good logo.
I know.
No one's ever used that before.
The tough part is how much I just charged to rebrand for all that logo. It's like that's the real cost.
Right. You charge us the same amount that the Amp Hour is paying for product placement on this podcast. So we'll call it even.
As long as it's less than the cost of a GPU, I think we're okay.
I heard that's the rule. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been here for 90 minutes and we have things to do. So thank you to everyone who tuned in. This was another great stream for Sloshy McWashy to be potentially name changed in the future. And I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Good to see y'all. Take care.
See you, folks.
Bye.